The nervous system is physiologically divided into two parts, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is composed of the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system is composed of thousands of miles of nerves to communicate with every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. For the most part, damage to the peripheral nervous system heals fairly rapidly, while damage to the central nervous system heals extremely slowly or not at all. That is why your central nervous system, your brain and spinal cord, is completely surrounded by bone. Let's take a look at the brain. The brain is composed of three main parts, the cerebellum, the cerebrum, and the medulla, which is also known as the brain stem. The cerebrum controls our senses, our imagination, and our thoughts. Whatever we see, smell, taste, touch, think, or imagine is controlled by the cerebrum. The cerebellum controls our motion, balance, posture, and our ability to learn new things. The third major part is the medulla. It controls automatic actions of the body, such as digestion, heartbeat, breathing, and body temperature. Your brain communicates with your body by sending signals down the spinal cord, and the body cells and tissues also communicate with the brain by sending signals up the spinal cord to be interpreted and acted upon. This up and down pathway, or efferent and afferent nerve transmission, is the key to body balance, normal function, and good health. Interfere with this pathway by putting stress, tension, or pressure on the spinal cord, and you have set up a relentless process of abnormal function, disease, and ill health. Let's take a look at the spinal cord, your body's main nerve channel. The spinal cord is really a long extension of your brain. It runs down through the center of your spine to the first lumbar level. Below this level, there are still plenty of nerves, but they are no longer the neurologic structure called the spinal cord. The spinal cord is made up of over 100 billion nerve cells, and the signals sent up and down this structure control virtually all of your body functions and activities. Yet the thickness of the cord in your neck is only about the diameter of a dime. Damage or misalignments to the bones and the discs in your neck can affect the spinal cord and cause disastrous neurologic and complicated health problems. Even small problems in the neck can degenerate and cause spinal cord tension or pressure in the future. Remember, the more your neck degenerates, the less likely you can receive any lasting correction. This is why X-ray studies of the cervical spine and chiropractic corrections of the neck are a powerful and vital approach to long-term health recovery and maintenance. Let's take a closer look. Here's the brain, here's the spinal cord. Now let's view some MRIs. Here's the brain, here's the spinal cord. The brain, the spinal cord. Brain, spinal cord. And one more, here's the brain and the spinal cord. As you can see, the best way to view a clear picture of the actual spinal cord would be an MRI. Whenever we look at MRIs, we are also looking for that nice smooth forward curve, same as when we look at the X-rays. A warning here, the vast majority of MRIs are taken with a patient lying down, and this typically reduces the curve in the neck, so the MRI image is not a good indication of proper neck curve and posture. However, it does give great views of the spinal cord and soft tissues, while X-rays just show bone. This neck has a total reverse curve. The disc spaces are still thick. However, when you reverse the curve like this, it stretches that spinal cord. Not good. This neck has a compression at C5, probably a compression fracture. The neck above is straight. This elongates or tractions the spinal cord, and at C5 there's pressure on the spinal cord, and right below C5, C6 there's also compression on the spinal cord. This spine has compression at C5, and look how the entire C5 vertebra has slipped posterior, creating that huge dent on the spinal cord. Looking at this neck, we see the spinal cord is in pretty good position. The disc at C4 is bulged backwards and is pressing on the spinal cord, and the disc at C5 is narrow and degenerated. Looking at the upper spinal cord, it's not bad. There's no pressure, there's no tension, but come down to the middle of the neck, C5, that disc is bulging posterior, there's pressure on the spinal cord, you can see the compression, you can see the dent, also the disc is thin, severely degenerated. Here's a neck which has lost its curve, and the discs are all bulging posterior, all of them, C2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can see the small dents or the small protrusions that these discs make in the spinal cord. This neck's got a good curve and the discs are super thick. However, even with a good neck, you can still develop problems from accidents or injuries. Look at that disc protrusion at the C5 level. It's definitely putting pressure on the spinal cord. Disc and spine degeneration at the C5, C6 level. In this case, the spinal cord pressure is caused by the change in the vertebral body itself. The bony changes are putting pressure on the spinal cord, not the discs. This is not a good neck. There's multiple levels of bone degeneration, disc degeneration, multiple areas of disc protrusion, pressure on the spinal cord. There's severe pressure on the spinal cord in the lower cervical spine, and there's spinal cord traction or tension in the upper cervical spine. Serious disc protrusion herniation. Although these discs are thick, look at the size of that posterior bulge putting pressure right on the spinal cord. It's changed the spinal cord's total configuration. When we look at this neck, we see severe disc thinning at C5, C6 level. However, fortunately for this person, the spinal cord doesn't seem to be involved at all. Look at that lumpy, bumpy spinal cord. Multiple levels of spinal cord pressure. Here's an MRI of the low back, the lumbar spine. The left picture shows a nice, clean curve in the low back. The discs are all bulging forward, no pressure on the nerves behind. The right side shows a loss of the lumbar curve, multiple areas of disc degeneration, vertebral body degeneration, and also multiple levels of posterior disc protrusion or herniation, putting pressure on the nerves behind. Let's take a look at some x-rays, but first a quick review. There's the spinal bones or vertebrae, the discs, and of course the spinal cord. Here's a normal x-ray. Nice smooth forward curve, good space between occiput and C1 and C1 and C2. That's where the top of the spinal cord or the brain stem sits. And thick even disc spaces, all wedged open in the front. No obvious pressure on the spinal cord. This neck is pretty close to normal, although it's lost some curve in the center. Good space between occiput, C1 and C2, and the discs are thick and open in the front. Phase 1 degeneration. No obvious distortion of the spinal cord. This neck has lost its curve and there is traction on the spinal cord. Look how the space between C1 and C2 has closed down. Pressure on the brainstem. C5 disc is no longer wedged open to the front. It's now open in the back where the spinal cord is. Phase 1 degeneration. There is a closing of the space between C1 and C2 where the brainstem lies. In addition, there is a big curve reversal with C4 disc severely wedged backward or posterior. This neck is already in phase 2 degeneration. Look how that space between occiput and C1 is closed down. Direct pressure on the brainstem. And either C4 has slid anterior or C5 has slipped posterior. Either way, it doesn't look right, and this is stretching the spinal cord. Not much degeneration though. Phase 1. This is not a healthy person. The head is shifted anterior, the spaces between occiput and C1 and C2 are closed, disc degeneration C3, C4, and bone degeneration and compression C5, C6. This spine is in phase 3 to 4 degeneration, and there is not much hope of correction. This neck starts out good, but due to the reverse curve lower down, the C1, C2 brainstem space is closed. Also, the posterior facet, or rear neck joint, has compressed and malformed. extreme bone and disc compression at C5, C6 along with posterior disc wedging and curve reversal. Phase 4 degeneration. Lots of pressure on the upper spinal cord because of the narrowing of the C1, C2 space. This is actually caused by the severe curve reversal lower down. Imagine the extreme stretch and opposite kinking of the spinal cord. Although there is a lot of degeneration at the C5, C6 level, the rest of the neck doesn't have much, and the discs are thick. This is still a correctable neck. This neck is not correctable. Severe cord pressure in the upper neck. Reverse curve means the spinal cord is now kinked the wrong way. Massive degeneration on the front of the vertebra. Looks like candle wax drippings. Like the bones have just melted away. This neck is in phase 4 degeneration and cannot be corrected. I remember this patient. His health was not good. Look at the incredible compression of the upper spinal cord. Not only that, the front of the first bone in the neck has slipped forward, which means the back of the first bone has slipped forward too, basically choking off the brain stem. I don't even know how this person is still alive. Look at this poor fellow. Brainstem compression, massive degeneration of the bones and discs, curve reversal. What do you think his spinal cord looks like? What do you think your spinal cord looks like? A healthy body needs a healthy nervous system, and a healthy nervous system needs a healthy spine.